What is up, guys? Welcome to this video. In this one, I'm going to be talking about value systems and how a value system actually dictates a large amount of your life, whether you actually know it or not. So you have a value system, and we need to understand where this value system came from and how it actually served our life. So some examples of values are education, money, let's say creativity, and whatever, community. These are just some very easy to understand values. Now, where we got values from depends on, let's say, the culture that we grew up in and even the household that we grew up in and the people we hung out with, the people that were surrounding us. Now, when we were growing up, we didn't really have the ability to consciously form a value system for ourselves. We basically completely adopted our value system from the people around us. This helped us to agree with the people around us, get accepted by them, and help them, and basically help ourselves to get our needs met. So this helps to create an important sense of community, for example, and can even help with a healthy sense of individuality. But dominantly, where we got our value system from is basically the world around us at large and the influences that we had growing up. Now, when you reach a certain age, maybe your teenage years, your mind is developed enough to begin to question its values, change things, rearrange your value system, grow, or even fall back to lower stages of human development. But this video is going to be basically centered around how your entire life is actually organizing around the values that you're holding, whether you know them or not. So I grew up in Canada, and I live in Canada right now. So I will list some Canadian values, some rather positive ones. MC, right here. MC will stand for multiculturalism. So Canada's very accepting to Black people, Asians, Hispanics, white, different religions, and all sorts of different belief systems. We're not going to burn people at the stake for being gay, for example. That just doesn't happen here. We're just not going to burn you at the stake. Whereas in some places in the world, they still will. And in the past, we know that they did do that. Now, another Canadian value will be, I guess, like, I can say kindness as well. Canada is actually full of relatively nice people. For the most part, a lot of the education system in Canada and the strangers you come across are going to be, for the most part, relatively respectful people. Some people not so much, though. But in Canada, people, as the stereotype is, are kind of nice. They're not assholes for the most part. Some people can be, but I mean, whatever. Another Canadian value will be, I guess, acceptance, but even education. This is massive for our society. We have an entire education system that we put kids through so that they can learn how to read, write, get along with people, and basically be integrated into the society in a, I guess, relatively smooth way. Now, each value, multiculturalism, kindness, and education, each value works with all the other values. So it's not that there's just one value sitting by itself and it's lonely, but they're actually all working together to create a value system. There's actually an interaction between all these values. These are arrows. There's an actual interaction between these values. And when we get enough values, we have the whole of our value system, really. And our life is going to be dictated by this stuff. So another Canadian value we can say is money. Canadians like money. It's a pretty materialistic culture. Speaking of materialistic, we can even write materialism. Okay, that's a really poor looking arrow, but ignore that. So we have multiculturalism, kindness, education, money, and materialism. Now, around a lot of this stuff, Canadians are living their life by it. And these aren't some bad values to have. These are some good values, but there's some crappier Canadian values as well. And there's even higher quality values as well. So not every value system is equal to one another. Some are more complex and more evolved than others. So here, on this side over here, we can have the value system of, let's say, a tribal warlord. So I guess, oh God, this is gonna be messed up. Like, it can get brutal. Murder, territory, say like women, women as like just sex objects, really. So here, oh God, we have the value system of a tribal warlord. Violence as well, like all form, like cruelty, like it can get a bit brutal. You know, for the most part, I don't think anyone who's watching this video is very familiar with this. So because he lives his life by these values, and these values are what helps him to survive in the environment that he is living in, he will basically behave in accordance with this. Whereas if I murder someone and I live in Canada, I will go to jail. That's not going to help me to survive. And on top of that, I don't even value murder. I don't want to go out and murder people. So it's important to understand that values are not this sort of loosey-goosey, arbitrary, sort of random thing, but there actually is an evolution to them, and some are more conscious than others. Some are actually more developed than others. Now, if you watch my videos and you're still here, you probably like personal development, because that's what a lot of this channel is about. And unless we consciously construct a high-quality value system, we will be stuck with the garbage values that have basically been given to us at birth. So let me get rid of the tribal warlord. You can go. And I'll get rid of this stuff too. So some not so great values that basically a lot of Canadians have been given at birth is not caring about junk food. Even, I'll do this one. Short-sighted. But not so much short-sighted, just immediate pleasure is really what I'm going for. I got to get rid of that. Pleasure. And I like pleasure. Who doesn't like pleasure? I'm not saying to go torture yourself, but the kind of pleasure that I'm actually speaking about right here isn't healthy pleasure. It's endless amounts of video games. It's eating garbage food. It's not exercising. It's not having a conscious direction in life. It's basically short-term dopamine hits. And this is why this runs wild where I live. This is like the most mind-blowing thing to me, because it doesn't really work at all for genuinely feeling good in life, yet we're all very trapped in it. So why is that? It's because unconsciously we actually value eating garbage food and not taking care of ourselves and not actually educating ourselves on how to actually feel good and sustain these sort of healthier states and how to actually be fulfilled in life. Instead of any of that stuff, donuts and McDonald's are massive here. And scrolling on social media in a state of hypnosis is the norm, basically. Why? Because we have some really crappy values. Now, if instead of this, we valued, let's say, well-being. Let's say this was your value now. Let's say this is what you like. Let's say you valued well-being. This would radically change your behavior, because instead of caring about burgers and fries and coffees, like large coffees at 6:30 in the morning that you can't live without, you would actually care more about getting some exercise as a source of energy. So instead of just looking to only coffee, you would maybe get up and do some stretching or go for a quick run, maybe lift some weights. And you would probably drink water. You would realize that maybe you have an addiction to caffeine and that this isn't conducive to health, which would begin to change your behavior. Now, another crappy value that we personally have in Canada I'm trying to think. There's quite a lot. But for now, I'll say, I'll write on this side. Let's say you value clarity. Let's say you value clarity. You will then begin to orient yourself around clarity and things that give you more of this. So there's a sort of self-organizing effect here, that when you value something, your life starts to reframe itself around the value. Whereas here, let's say, I don't know, TV. We'll just write TV. Now, after watching hours of TV, you probably don't feel too clear anymore. You probably have lost that clarity that you valued. Now, because you value clarity, you will begin to notice habits in your life, maybe not right away, but over a period of time, you will begin to notice things in your life that aren't aligned with your values. And this is where a massive value comes in. Let's say you value honesty. This is huge. Oh, I gotta do this backwards. This is massive. Now, as the opposite, I guess we'll just put deception. And this doesn't have to just mean fooling other people, but even yourself. So you can see, and these are actual things that people value where I live. These three actually work together to create this sort of state of hypnosis. Whereas if you value basically a lot of the opposite, you can actually begin to construct a life that is actually worth living. Whereas, see how this value system is pulling you towards being an animal, basically, like feeling lethargic, being reactive, being kind of manipulative. When things don't go your way, you start getting very upset about it. Whereas this one is gearing you towards clarity. It's gearing you to, I mean, obviously it's right on the board. It's gearing you towards actual joy in your life. And you can see how these synergize. That's the main point, is what I'm trying to say, is that it's not like, oh, I value, let's say, health or well-being, and it's just sort of its own loose value. They all come together to create a system of values which then dictates behavior. It actually paves the direction for your life. So you can see how if you value well-being, clarity, and honesty, this is pretty great. Like being honest with yourself. Like, is what I'm doing giving me clarity or is it not giving me clarity? So another good value, another very high quality value could be self-actualization. Whereas on this side, we can just write, I guess, complacency. I guess just being complacent. Or more so, maybe not complacency. I guess just comfort. And I like comfort. Everyone likes comfort. There's nothing wrong with comfort. I sleep on a comfortable bed. I go for walks when it's warm outside because it feels good. I like comfort. But there's a difference between comfort in a healthy way that adds clarity and is in alignment, and you're honest about whether it's in alignment or not with your values, and is helping you to grow and develop yourself to your highest potential, versus self-sabotaging comfort like playing 10 hours of video games and eating donuts. And it goes along with all of this, because when you value just short-term unconscious pleasure, the TV, you don't really care about honesty, and you're basically willing to sacrifice your life for these sort of short-term, mundane pleasures, really. Like, they're not too exciting almost. Like, it's just basically suffering. Like, it doesn't actually create any real joy. It's basically just dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit, and it gets very mundane and like monotonous. It's like you're doing the same garbage over and over again, and it's never worked, and you're thinking that maybe this time it will work. So, I'm not insulting anyone with this video. You can live your life however you want. But what I'm saying is that if what you want is to live the best life, you have to really consider the effect that values have on you. You have to really begin to dig in to the things that you're doing in your life and why. Let's say that you eat a lot of junk food and you have this massive, I don't know, not massive, but like a partly junk food addiction. Like you're part addicted to junk food. It's not massive and you're not like an addict craving it, but it's this sort of ongoing pattern that you want to get over. You can actually see how your value system is creating that and begin to change your values so that you slowly, over a period of time, begin to cut out junk food so that you can live with more clarity, well-being, honesty, and grow self-actualization. Now, a value system, if what you want is to be very developed, should work to create openness and creativity and health and clarity. And you can actually use your value system to help you make choices in life. So, a lot of the choices that we make in life are once again dictated by our values. If you value honesty, this can radically change even little things that you do, all the way to large. Like, let's say you're working a job and you don't like that job, and you know you don't like it, but it's hard for you to admit to yourself that I actually don't like the situation I'm in and I want to change it. That statement, that honest statement, just admitting it to yourself that this isn't what I want and I have to get out of here. Just stating that to yourself is enough to get you clarity and to change your whole life. Really, it's enough to begin to change the entire direction of your life. Just by valuing honesty and clarity, your life has now, it's going to have a radically different trajectory, because what you thought you liked and what you invested probably some time and energy into, you ended up not liking. And to admit that you didn't really like it and to change what you're doing is a ballsy move. That isn't exactly easy, because there's a sort of pattern. You're going along with this specific direction, and to actually say to yourself, like, no, this, like, I can see this isn't really what I want. This isn't the most authentic to me. That isn't something that a lot of people can actually do, because, what does this mean for my life? What does this mean for my finances? What does this mean for my relationships? What does this mean for my joy? What is this, like now I have to create a whole new direction. I have to figure something else out. I have to go experience new things. I might have to look at different topics and subjects. So it's not a very easy thing to do, to be quite honest. Now, having a value system that you are consciously aware of is extremely important, because if you don't see what your values are, they will pull your strings for the rest of your life. You won't actually be living the life that you want. You will not actually even be making the decisions that you think that you're making. But it will be this. It'll be this that makes the decision that you're making. It'll be these values that are driving your life. Whereas if you changed to these values, you'll have a radically different outcome in life. And I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm not a guru. But I'm just showing you the importance of reflecting on your values in life. And there's one final point that I do have to talk about, and that is your values in relationship to your needs. So let me erase all of this. Now, our values actually are dictated by our needs. So depending on what you need, if you need food, you will value food. If you need shelter, you will value shelter. If you need connection, you will value connection. And so on. But once you get these things met, once you're actually conscious enough and you have enough of these needs met, you can go beyond a lot of basic survival. Like, another one would be like self-esteem, like basic self-esteem. The moment you have this stuff met, you can actually go past it. And here we'll have honesty, self-actualization. I'll even have systems thinking, self-actualization, ST is systems thinking. And here we'll have transcendence. I'll just write transcend for now. So here we have a lot of very basic survival needs that everyone has to value to some degree in order to live. But once you have enough food, some shelter, some friends, you have enough self-esteem, like you don't need to endlessly achieve more status or something like that. and this is all great stuff, but this isn't actually how to achieve one's full potential. There's more. There's just more to life than that. Once you have that, you can begin to value honesty. And I have a playlist on honesty I'd recommend watching to understand more about it. You would begin to value self-actualization. You'd begin to value systems thinking, because what is this whole video other than systems thinking? This whole video is showing you that there's a system of a bunch of interconnected parts that are driving, or that is driving, human life. And transcendence, self-transcendence, being able to see reality in very clear ways beyond the sort of mundane human survival needs, really, that actually distort a lot of our view of reality. Because when you're stuck in survival, truth and accuracy and clarity doesn't matter. What matters is, how do I have sex and make friends? How do I get food for tomorrow? How do I put a roof over my head? How do I achieve something to just, feel good about who I am? And this is all fantastic stuff. Like, it's not that this is bad and this is good. That's just not the case. It's not that bad, good. Like, that's not it. Everyone needs this, and everyone actually needs this in order to be well in their mind, psychologically. So once you're conscious enough, you can begin to play around with what you value, which will restructure your life. So let's say for self-actualization, you start to value it. So now you buy some books. You do some meditation. You get more self-aware. Let's say you want to value systems thinking. You want to understand how the world is actually working. You can buy books on that. You can actually go and watch videos on YouTube like you're doing right now about that. Let's say you value honesty. You can buy books once again. You can actually watch it happening in your own life. Don't underestimate your own direct experience right now. You can watch yourself deceive yourself or value some things over others without really knowing which one is the better thing to value. So there's a lot of stuff that you're doing that goes against a lot of these sort of higher values and are more in favor of these, in a sense, lower, more basic survival ones, which there's nothing wrong with. But if your goal is to move up to higher levels of development, you have to really begin to look at a lot of what you're actually doing. Your life needs to be consciously investigated. There's no other way to do it. You actually have to actively investigate your own mind, your values, your emotions, your instincts, your awareness. And according to basically, once again, your survival needs, what you actually need to live and be well, this will dictate what you value in life. So if I live in a tribe, I value the tribe because these are the people who I depend upon to get my needs met. Let's say I'm a child, I'm 4 years old, and I'm growing up in a family. I value the family, kind of like the tribe, because these are the people I depend upon to get my needs met. Let's say I grow to a more national identity, then I value my country because I need the country to survive. I need the military, the police, I need the laws, the order, I need the rules of that country to help me to live. Let's say then I grow even beyond that and I value the world. Now I value all humans. Now I need people to get along, not want to go to war over who has the more resources and go to war over land and conquer and dominate each other. It's not about that. It's about us all getting along so that we can thrive together. Let's say I go even beyond that. And now I understand, I seek to understand why not everyone even agrees with what I just said. Why people aren't multicultural. Why people aren't interested in growing and developing and being more loving and being more conscious and understanding how the world works. So, value systems are complicated. This isn't an easy thing to do. This isn't an easy thing to get. And I would recommend learning something called spiral dynamics if you aren't familiar with it. You can check out a good playlist on YouTube. One is by actualize.org. You can even get the book by Don Beck called, I believe it's just called Spiral Dynamics. You can even check out a guy named Ken Wilber's work. These are all of immense value. This book right here, actually, Reinventing Organizations, is all about reinventing organizations to have higher quality values. So that's it for this video. I just want to show you that depending on what you value, this will dictate the outcome of your life. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. And other than that, take it easy.